Welcome everyone to the August 11th NEMSIS V3 implementation call. We're excited to have you with us this morning. We've got a few topics on our agenda. Just as a couple of reminders, these meetings are being recorded and they are posted on our website and on our YouTube channel for your reference later, or if there's a topic that you want to share with somebody else on your team, you can send them the link to the call. Chris, who is our the wizard behind the screen, he goes through and timestamps all these videos so that you can jump to the topic that you're looking for. So you don't have to necessarily watch the whole thing again, although you are welcome to always do that. This is also a conversation. We really do appreciate when you take yourself off mute, ask questions, provide feedback, give your input. We also watch the chat, so if that's easier for you to contribute through, feel free to use chat as well. And with that, let's move down to the agenda. That's squared away on the screen. Oh, and as one more reminder, you guys are so good about it, but just in case it slipped your mind this morning, especially if you're a vendor, and we also love it when our other participants will do it as well. If you'll update your name in the participant list with your affiliation, then it just helps everybody to know who's talking or who's contributing that bit of information. Just helps understand who all is in the call. It's very helpful. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laurel. She's got a few items for us on the maintenance update. Laurel?
All right, good morning, everyone. So real quick maintenance update this month. We do not have any scheduled maintenance for the maintenance window next week. So there should not be any downtime that anyone experiences on any of our services. There will probably be some patches next month. That's all I have.
Unmute. Would you talk for just a second on the message that we sent out over Google Group yesterday, just the notice on some of the failures that people were seeing on their weekly submission report?
Yes, so we did have a sort of a minor hiccup in our reporting side where a large number of records that were submitted on July 31st and August 1st were categorized as a failure in the submissions dashboard. Those records did not return as a failure from the ETL, or I'm sorry, from the web service, as far as we can tell. So if you submitted a record on August 1st or July 31st, and you got a successful response from the web service, then your record was successful and it was processed. The error was solely in the way that those records were represented on the dashboard, and we're working to get that corrected and to make sure that all those records, to verify that all those records have indeed been processed into our warehouse. But at this time, no one should need to resubmit anything or take any action, unless, of course, you do have records that failed with a known status code, such as an XML issue or a schematron issue. Or something along those lines. And if anyone has any questions about that, I'm happy to address them. Great. Well, if anyone thinks of anything or has any questions moving forward, as always, feel free to reach out to us and we'll do what we can to get your questions answered and find solutions for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Laurel. Next on the agenda is a quick report on our annual meeting last week. Lori Brott is going to fill in for Ben Fisher this morning. Lori?
Yeah, good morning. I want to say thanks to all of you on the call that were able to join us last week. We were really excited to have such a great turnout and such great participation and feedback. And I can say we are actively combing through chats and rewatching videos and taking notes and really using our conversation from last week to guide are planning moving forward to guide training we want to have or future conversations on V3 calls. And so you'll continue to hear about those topics, and we really appreciate your feedback and input. We are excited that we did have approximately 150 people each day on average. We had 51 state representatives from 31 states and territories. So we were really excited about that. And then from the vendor standpoint, we had 104 vendor reps representing 44 different vendor products. So again, a really, really great turnout. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We also are grateful for the national partners who participated with us as well. And the presenters, we really felt like we had a great turnout from all of our stakeholders. So thank you for that. If you did miss the annual meeting or are interested or want to go back and rewatch, we just yesterday shared, if you're part of our Google group, you should have received an email with a link to that, but I will post a link in the chat here in just a moment as well to our YouTube channel that has 3 different videos from each of those days' presentations. So we encourage you to go back and watch if you are not able to participate, or use that as a resource as needed. That's all I have. Back to you, Julianne. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori. It was a really great annual meeting. We appreciate all the feedback and participation. We got some very valuable feedback on the evaluations, and we appreciate that. Next on our list of the agenda today is Clay. I'm going to turn some time over to Clay to talk about some next steps in improving data submission.
All right, great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound good.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Let me share my screen. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Can't express our appreciation enough for your willingness to be with us last week. We just gained so much great information. That happens every time we have those open, candid discussions. And I'm just going to share with you some very rough notes that we're kind of patching together. There were several different sources that comments came into us. My topic today, I want to dig in a little deeper to some of the issues that we talked about in regards to data submission lag on the 3rd day. So you'll see here, there were some slide comments, there were chat comments, and there were even emails that we received afterwards that were incredibly helpful. So they're just patched together here, the ideas. But the ones in red, I want to just drill down a little bit. And then also we've quickly kind of delve in with a couple of them just in the last few days. So I want to show a very draft, for example, dashboard to help states with data submission lag from agencies and see if we're headed down the right track. So that's what I want to spend the next couple of moments with. So here's just rough notes, right? And I've got to re-listen to the session. I haven't done that yet. This is my section to review. So I'll be doing that probably this week or next. So we'll get a more formal listing of these comments, but we are recording this one. I would love to listen to this one too, and maybe just dig in a little deeper into a couple of these topics. I would love to have folks either chat if you don't want to unmute, or to please speak your piece so that I can hear that and understand how we can best move forward with these issues. So I'm going to dig in, and if you have comments about the data submission lag, would love to hear it. So just a little bit of history, right? I think the states and also at the national level, clearly with COVID, there has been this renewed interest in how quickly can we provide an EMS, a pre-hospital picture of our communities, right, and our states. And so the need to have data flow more quickly was reinvigorated. And also at the same time, the data coming into the national repository, you remember from last week, is even 2 weeks later on average than it was in the past, right? We used to have to have a delay of 2 weeks to get about 75% of any records that occurred on any given day into the National Registry. That's now changed to 22 days, almost a month in some time period. So trying to figure that out, right? So some of these comments are related to that. So The first comment that was shared was by Oregon. It's here in red. Josh shared that in Oregon, they learned that there was on the vendor side that they had just built in a process where records were held onto for 24 hours before they were submitted to the national level or moved forward with this idea that they could be, there may have been technical reasons for that, or there may be an opportunity for the record to be updated during that time period. My question to both the vendors and the states are, do most vendors do this? Is there a when they receive a record, do they have like a holding warehouse or a database where records will come in, but they're not formally moved into data marts or to a final warehouse for a period of time? Am I describing that well enough?
Hi, Clay. This is Samantha with ESO, and on the collect data product, we do have an hour delay to aggregate any last minute edits before we send. And I don't believe there's any delay at all on the receive and process product.
Thank you, Samantha.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think most do not have such a window. Some products, though, the agency is in charge of submissions, and yeah, 24 hours doesn't seem like it would give you the kind of delay you're talking about of 2 extra weeks.
Yeah, but you're right, David. And we'll talk about that a little bit, right? Our agencies holding on to records for a longer period of time now. And there's a couple of great comments here, one or two of which we'll go through. So thank you, David. So the agencies holding things up, we'll talk about in just a minute. Thank you. That's helpful. Any states have requested? I know, for example, Mark from California, I did a great job of detailing what they've decided to do in California in regards to holding records before finalizing. Folks may remember that conversation with Mark. Any other states do something like that where they have requested that their state level product hold records for a period of time before, quote, finalizing them? Okay, Ridgely, thank you. Ridgely commented, we don't require services to submit for 14 days from Massachusetts. Steve, thank you for your comment.
Hey, Clay, it's Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, I just wanted to kind of point out last night, for example, I had one vendor for one agency send me 5,500 records. And I looked at them, and over half of them were from calls that were 4 months ago. So they're going in and they're doing billing, or they're doing some QI, and they're just resubmitting, and then they end up just bogging the system down because, I mean, I think yesterday that would have made 27,000 records that would have gotten submitted in a 24-hour period. And you know, if the system can't handle it, and then that turns around and means that we have to resend them to you again. So it's ins and outs on everything. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we've asked for, 48 to 72 hours. And I've contacted this agency and said, this has got to stop. If you're sending us stuff that's from March, stop. What do we care? I mean, that time has already lapsed. So, and I'm sure there's others that are getting the same thing that are happening. They're just not noticing it. But that then slows down your system because you're getting duplicates. We're getting duplicates. It's just nuts. So that's just something to think about.
Yeah, Mark. So I'm going to dig in a little bit. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. So it sounds like what you're saying is for this product or for this agency, and we don't need to discuss the software company, but clearly it sounds like these records went to billing before they So they complete a patient care report and it's going to billing, maybe additional information is added before it comes to you?
Well, yeah, that or they're going back, and then what I think they're doing is they're sending the record, and then
Okay.
somebody's trying to bill it, and then they're finding out maybe the patient's name was spelled wrong or the date of birth or something. I'm guessing. I'm just totally guessing here, and they're going in and correcting it. In the middle of they're correcting it, is resubmitting it.
Oh, got it. Okay. Okay, so that's your resubmission issue. Got it. Okay.
Hey Clay, this is Kelly with Image Trend. What Mark pointed out is something that happens with many states. It is often agencies' workflow to post a record from the field and then take the time to actually go in and make sure it's up to date. And sometimes that takes some time to do. And then at that point, once they actually go through the QA process and ensure that that data that they're sending is accurate and complete, at that point, they'll push records to the state. So there is a natural lag between agency submission as well as state submission. And we want good, accurate data. So I think that should also be considered whenever you're looking at this lag, because those agencies need time to make sure that it's quality data and that it's complete data before they send it to the state. So then the state can push it to you guys as well. So just pointing that out as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. That's really helpful. So yeah, I like that term posting. So it posts, and that makes perfect sense. Of course, our system is geared to be able to replace records, right? So if records are being held on for a really long time, weeks, waiting, then maybe we are kind of shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit, right? If it's posted for weeks for a small revision when we could just do a wipe and replace in our systems. So Kelly, that's really helpful. Do agencies decide on the period of posting? Like how long something sits in posting, or is that related to a quality score or a completeness score?
That's a good question, and it depends. So obviously a agency wants to send complete data. And so a lot of times that depends on their internal workflows and their internal protocols. Some states have a law in place that says that you have to get data to them within X number of hours. I know not all states have that, but the important thing is that we're giving complete and accurate data. So I think that is a natural lag. Not so much a software problem, but it's just part of the workflow. It does take a while to make sure that documentation is completed and accurate, and you're not sending incomplete data.
Yeah, but I would argue that we're not looking at record level data at the state or at NHTSA. It's all aggregate and combined data. So if you're looking at a particular field and you're looking at 100,000 records, and even 1,000 of them are incomplete, what does that really do to the numbers? Nothing. So, I mean, at record level, at a state, and they want to get right down to it, that may be different. But majority of them don't look at the record level. They're looking at the aggregate data. And some of what we're talking about just doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that agencies are looking at it from, they want to send you a good record, and they are absolutely looking at the record level. Yeah.
I absolutely 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
They have a different need. They have the need for billing. They have the need for compliance and protocols and things like that. But at the state and the federal level, for the most part, they don't. And so, you got to draw that line. And then should it be resent? That's always been the big question is, okay, so they go in, they do QA and they correct the patient's name or date of birth, or maybe they take it from 2 liters to 5 liters or something that in an aggregate world doesn't matter. I mean, it should it be resent again? I mean, Image Trend of all vendors should know that sending duplicates from an agency to a state causes a huge mess.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
Mark,
don't-
I don't
let's
think
don't
that's
forget that.
universal. Yeah, yeah, I don't think that's universal though. That's a little bit product specific. That's kind of a technical issue. So this whole idea of sending records fast for surveillance is really kind of a novel idea, right? So what's in place now is in place for good reasons, and I think we just have to understand it, right? And look for the ways where we can find additional value for surveillance. Mark's right. I think what the CDC was asking of us during COVID, or HHS was asking us to provide, it was not specifics about medications or patients or times. It was really just, how many patients with influenza-like illness symptoms are we seeing, right? By geographic region. It was very kind of high level. So that's a good point. Yeah, I think this whole idea we're thinking about this from scratch. And so I really appreciate the descriptions of what the systems are doing. Kaylin provided a great description of what she's doing. And she makes the point again about the schematron rules. Even our own national schematron rules weren't built with this idea. And there may be some holdups that are happening based on errors, right? That where there may be information that we don't absolutely need. I don't think that's present now in the national schematron file, but we need to take a closer look at it. And Amber's comments are really good, right? The value of this, really the system that we do have in place, we tried to build a wipe and replace system. So yeah, there really shouldn't be harm in being able to change data and resubmit it. Paige, Wolfberg, and Worth made that very clear on the first day of our meeting, that data can be updated, and there's no national violation. There may be state issues related to that, but there's not any laws that they see that would prohibit that. So.
Question, Clay.
Yeah.
When you calculate the delay lag on the national level, are you looking at only the first submission, or are you calculating the last submission? So if we submit, let's say 2 days later, but we make an update a month later, which one are you looking at?
Yeah, so we've done that a couple of different ways. We are beginning to just look at this as well, and we provided some initial information to the state data managers that just looked at the initial, right? So if it was updated, we weren't counting that, but we have a dashboard that's kind of put together that now takes that into consideration. I'll just show it briefly. So this is kind of what we're playing with right now. So this is at the national level. I'm gonna just with the love of my folks here in my home state, I'm just going to change it to Utah real quick. So this just shows, and this is very rough, guys. This is incredibly rough. There's lots of things we're going to change here, but here's just a submission lag by months of the current year. Here's a group of really good ones with their time for a number of records, and here's a list of agencies that have held on to records. I looked at a couple of these initially here in the state, and these are EMS agencies, private agencies associated with mining organizations, right? So they will only have a handful of records and may hold on to them for months and months and months before they submit them. We do now have a way to exclude resubmissions. So if a record is resubmitted, you can exclude it with this dashboard, or you can keep it in. You notice here that Utah doesn't have a lot of resubmissions. If I was to change this to other states, it could show big differences. Texas, for example, has lots of resubmissions. Some of the other states. So, and I think that could be based on state processes in place. I mean, if I was to change this to California because of what Mark does, there's probably no difference at all. So, did that help with the question? Was that Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Oh yeah, so Jason said we could use Maine. Yeah, so let's see what Maine's doing. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Maine has really quick submissions with just a couple of agencies, and maybe these are agencies that are submitting retrospective records. Maybe they've just come up, I don't know. Jason could probably speak directly to these, but I think what it does is it gives Jason the opportunity to say, oh, okay, well, 1052, I probably need to look into, and an agency 1053, see what kind of agency they are and why their records are delayed, right? Maybe they're submitting retrospective records or some records they forgot to submit in the past. I'm not sure what's happened during that time period, but it would give the state the opportunity to take a look at what's happened. Yeah, so thanks.
Well, Clay, so I think one other piece that may be a factor is those states that have a statewide system and everybody's on the state system versus those states that don't have a statewide system and everybody's submitting from third-party vendors, or the majority are, and so
Correct.
You may see a higher response time, submission time to those that are on a statewide system and everybody's using the state versus those that are trying to gather it from other sources.
Yep. Could very well be, right? There'll be a lot of things associated with this processes. That's why it's so valuable for us to just talk through it. So, yeah. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, trying to read through great comments, John. Great comments. More from Caitlin. Thank you. Amber, thank you. Yeah, good comments. I'm gonna get through a couple of other of these questions. This is incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. I'm gonna dig into this just a little bit. I forget who at the beginning brought this up, at the idea of agencies holding on to records longer. And this was a great comment that was brought up several times, that the QA process that kind of needs to happen, or agencies mandate happen of their records, that was delayed just because of short staffing during 2020 and all the other processes that tore away their attention. Any comments from states or from software or even providers in regards to this? Was this happening? I can easily imagine this happening. But wanted to get a feel if there was kind of a consensus that it's going to be that, for example, it would be valuable here to make sure that if we're going to provide some education to work with agencies and help them understand the importance of completing the QA process within a time period.
Clay, I'm a little interested in what problem you're trying to solve. I guess my understanding of NHTSA is it's more of a research base, not necessarily real time. So if that's incorrect, please let me know. But I'm really curious on what the actual problem is that you're trying to solve for.
Yeah, Kelly. So thanks for bringing that up. And we've heard that several times, and it's a really good question. And I'm glad you brought it up. And I'm really happy to go back years and years to answer this question. Was NHTSA spent? And I'm gonna be a little flippant, Kelly, just to make the point that your question is really right on target. Is NHTSA just meant to be like a stable, like registry, right? Should it be like the NTDB? Should it be like the hospital discharge data set within states that can be dated, right? It can be, often those aren't ready for 2 years, right? They take their time, they clean them, they build waiting systems for them because they're using not complete census data sets. Was NHTSA meant to be that? No, I think the idea that very early on and for years and years, there's been this idea of web services. There's been this idea of exchange, real-time exchange, electronic exchange. From the very beginning, the idea was that EMS can serve as community sentinels that can quickly assess the condition and the health of a community in the pre-hospital setting. So really the only experience we had with this before a really infectious pandemic was mass casualties, where states wanted to be able to quickly assess what was happening in regards to a mass casualty. So there was this idea, Kelly, that Yeah, it's supposed to be a stable registry that researchers can utilize, but at the same time, it's also supposed to be a surveillance tool. So does it, so that kind of answers that question, I hope, but I don't think people have seen it that way, right? I think it's really hard in the healthcare system right now to view that there could be a data set that could be so timely that could be used in that way. So, and EMS is different than knowing right away, you know, how many broken bones were set in a hospital or something like that. There's not true value probably in regards to surveillance in that kind of situation. So yeah, I think that moving forward, if we now have the Delta variant and the Lambda variant, and it just goes on, I think NEMSIS is going to be more and more called upon to provide a surveillance purpose. Did that address it a little bit, Kelly? I mean, just the comments we were getting from Panther, from HHS, from CDC, they were all related to being able to track what was happening, quote, real time. So.
And Clay, I think there's a question also with Caitlin.
Yeah, we are frequently asked by states to re-upload a provider's backload, sometimes as much as 2 years back. They ask all sorts of reasons.
Doctor, it wasn't about that I had my hand up.
Oh, yeah, please. Yeah, please, Caitlin, please.
Okay, so I feel like we're having conflicting pressure because nobody wants a whole lot of re-uploads, but also more and more counties or states are asking for very fast uploads because they intend to pass the data across to a hospital as quickly as possible. So it would be nice if there was a field in the SOAP header of an upload where I could say that this data is ephemeral. It's not subject to schematron validation. It's incomplete because my crew has just marked themselves at destination and I'm uploading whatever I happen to have at this very moment. So no schematron validation, no upload to the trauma no upload to TAC. I'm only giving you this because I've got partial information and you can pass this across to the hospital. That would relieve a lot of the pressure on people to make their schematrons quicker or thinner, because we'll just bypass the schematron when we're trying to fling data quickly.
Yeah, Kellen. Are other software companies getting that pressure from states or HIEs? From hospitals or from HIEs? Yeah, this idea of an abbreviated data set or as Kaylin described, a marker in the header.
How do you then take that and make sure that you don't end up with a duplicate when the final is submitted because they went in and changed the data service or corrected it or something like that that causes it to think it's not a duplicate, now it's a secondary? I mean,
yeah, that'd be the UUID.
And I guess I would have to ask also well, you know, every state does things so much differently that it's really hard to fathom that a state would want to be displaying data to a hospital that's imported and not say you get it directly from the vendor that created it. Because with the mappings and all the things that are going on, you know, it's really not the legal medical record at that point. It's just absolutely aggregate data that you're displaying on a report. If you're picking it up from the vendor that created it and the agency that created it, now it's a legal medical record, and whatever happens to be wrong is on that agency and not a mapping or a custom fields, for example, don't even show up on imported data unless the receiving agency has created that and put it into their PDF. So I don't know. While I understand what's being asked, it just seems kind of one-off-ish. I don't know if maybe there's only 2 or 3 states that are doing that, and maybe that's not the whole country.
Yeah, no, it's a good comment. I think what Caitlin describes has been around for a long time. I remember even under NEMSIS version 2, there were software products that were providing kind of an abbreviated PDF for an emergency department of an incomplete record, but provided the trauma surgeon with what he wanted to know in regards to this trauma 1 patient coming in. It was just this abbreviated PDF. So I think the idea has clearly been around. Okay, good comments. Wow, this has been incredibly helpful. This, as I mentioned, we're really just kind of at the beginning of this. So this kind of really ground level discussion is incredibly helpful. We also brought up this idea. We only heard from 4 states, and I'd like to hear from more states if they think it's no to this question. Right? I don't. When we only heard from 4 and all 4 were yes, I wasn't sure whether this was a thought we should even talk about with Eric and John at the Office of EMS at NHTSA. Would it be helpful for discussions and us framing up what we think we could potentially do with the current system? Would it be helpful to have some type of an expectation be described by the Office of EMS for states in those discussions? Any other states other than South Dakota, Florida, Massachusetts, and Arizona want to provide a vote, yes or no? So we can just get a feel for whether this is something we should think about. So Amber says yes for Colorado. Any other states? Mark, you can't hide. Everybody knows you're on the call.
Okay, so the moment of truth. I had somebody come into my office and I had to put you on mute and I didn't hear what you said. So I just want you to know that
Okay.
I'm not ignoring you.
Okay, Mark. Well, I may get on you, right? I just want to know whether California would like to have some statement from the Office of EMS regarding what their expectation would be in regards to submission lag to a national registry.
Oh, well, so we got, I can't speak for the state, obviously, but I can
Sure.
tell you that we have reporting requirements, and I want to say that it's 72 hours
Mm-hmm.
from the time of the call to the time it needs to be submitted to the state. So, and I believe that's in regulations.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful, Mark.
So again, I don't want to, I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but if it's in regulations and you guys said, well, we want everything in 24 hours. Yeah, no, they have to change the regs. I'm pretty sure. And then, I'm going to bring up another thing that is a competing interest. And that is we're taking the identical same data that we're sending to you and sending it to another company.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing double exports. It would be nice if everybody could get in the same sandbox and play, because that's double resources for us and a lot of states that are sending the exact same data.
Yep, Mark, we're aware of that. Yeah, thank you.
And that other company does not require any schematrons, which means the data goes a lot faster, as previously spoke about.
Yeah. So, So, yep. Thank you. That's really helpful. That's incredibly helpful. And we talked about that. So thanks, Mark, for bringing that up. That's good. Okay, great. I've taken a lot of your valuable time. Thank you very, very much for this discussion. I think I've filled out a number of these things that is incredibly helpful. So we'll continue to go down this road, right? This won't be the last time we talk about it. Clearly, there's support here. Thank you, Jay, Tim. Lots of folks are from states who have voted as well, so in the chat. So thank you very much. We'll move this forward. So any last comments related to this idea? Any big topic things you didn't see show up on the screen that you wanted to mention last week but didn't get airtime? Any other thoughts regarding this topic that we should just catalog? Okay. All right, thank you. Anything comes up, feel free to email me or to put it in the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much, Julianne. Appreciate it.
Sure. Let me put the agenda back up. And good discussion, lots of good comments in the chat too. And we pull all of that chat. So thank you for contributing with that. I think, is Eric with us this morning? I think he had a conflict this morning.
He is with you. He's just by phone.
All right. Eric, anything you've got for us?
I don't have anything specific from the office, just following the conversation, especially on the surveillance piece. I can tell you that one of the things, since I've taken over this project, one of the things that I hear, was said blunt and very bluntly, and I mentioned this last week in our national meeting, is that NEMSIS was too focused on research, and hence the move towards looking more at the operational level data and doing more operational level reports. And certainly that's something that came out of, fully supported out of COVID. But as Clay pointed out, I'll go back to my Homeland Security days when we did the listening sessions on active shooter. And one of the big things there was being able to move these patient care reports, electronic patient care reports in real time, and actually take it all the way back from the scene in real time, and then retroactively going back and looking at basically rebuilding the event using patient care reports. So there's a whole host of different uses that have been put forward to the TAC in the last probably two and a half years related to basically real-time data, or the need for faster data. But I totally agree with the comments that were made. There are some things you just don't need to have in 24 hours, and then there are other things that if you miss 2 of those records out of 1 million, is it worthwhile? So we'll pay a lot more attention to that. I think Clay mentioned in the conversation that this is Office of EMS, and we'll probably work with DIA and the SEMSO and some others to draft some language that could be used if you have statutory requirements on how fast that data can be submitted. Just put something together to try to get it there on a more timely basis. I think the bottom line for my concern is that a lot of that language was written during the paper transition to electronic, and it just hasn't been updated. So I think if we can move in that direction, things will correct themselves in a lot of places, and maybe some people that have not dusted off regs in a while will do so, and that'll help everybody throughout the process. So that's the big piece on surveillance. The other part is just, thanks to all of those who participated last week. We had great attendance. We're working through all the comments. We have meetings scheduled to go through the comments. Rest assured, we look at every one of them, and we'll get some kind of response back on those. Other than that, I'd be happy to address any questions anybody has for me. I just ask that as the COVID numbers begin to increase, and I'll share with you our meeting stats from HHS yesterday morning. We were hitting over 100,000 new cases a day in the United States, and we've topped the 450 a day death rate with an 18% increase in EDs. 10% of the nation basically has COVID, and the admission rates into the hospital are up 23%. For those of you who don't believe in vaccine, 98% of the people being admitted are due to the Delta variant. So with that gloom and doom message, I'll say, please take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and be safe wherever you possibly can. Any questions for me?
Hey, Eric, it's Mark. I think one thing that has, at least it was, I don't know if it's changed, is I had asked several years back to try and use it as a mechanism or a tool to get agencies to report quicker, was what is NMSIS reporting requirements in terms of time? And at that time, there was no reporting requirements. It was like, yeah, well, when you can give them to us, that's great. So I don't know if that has changed, but I think having something in there with a definite time frame is better than saying, yeah, whenever you can, that would be great. We appreciate it. So that might help for states and or agencies who are otherwise just taking their time. Well, states don't. I mean, I know states don't, but agencies do.
Absolutely, Mark. No problem. We can draft some things, and we'll work with some of the NGOs to make sure that you know, we try to make it as palatable for everyone. You know, we're going to make somebody happy doing that. We're going to make somebody angry doing that. That's just kind of the position. So, but I hear you loud and clear. Without some kind of definitive line in the sand, you know, people just kind of make their own way, and some do that in a positive manner, and some just kind of drag their feet. So it's almost like National Registry recertification for EMS personnel. If it wasn't for that March deadline, I wonder when people would recertify. So, any other questions for me? Thanks, Clay. Thanks, Julianne.
Thanks, Eric. We appreciate that. Are there any other topics or questions that anyone on this call would like to bring forward? We have a September training coming up next month that we'll discuss and go through some ideas on how to assess and improve data quality, and more information will be coming on that. Our next V3 implementation call will be August 25th, same time, same place. We try to always hold the implementation calls on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. And please let us know if there are topics or issues that you would like to bring to this group and add to the agenda. And feel free to contact us with any questions as well. Thank you, everyone, for being with us this morning. We appreciate your time and your valuable feedback and input. Thank you, and have a great day.